Hey there, Reese here. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Communication Breakdown. This week I'm talking with the English-German prog rock band Nectar. Founded in Hamburg, Germany over 50 years ago, this band introduced some of the most iconic prog rock albums into the scene. Albums such as A Tab in the Ocean, Journey to the Centre of the Eye, Recycled, Remember the Future, just to name a few. And even now, the band are still touring and forging new music together. The band joined me over Zoom to talk about their time on the prog rock scene. Enjoy. So, the main sort of question to begin with is, how do two guys from Yorkshire and two guys from South England end up in Germany?
Well, me and Ron were playing with bands at that time on the first in the EM clubs for American soldiers who were over there, and we ended up in Hamburg as our nest, if you like, at the Hotel Pacific in Hamburg, and we bunked down in the annex and we decided that we were going to play out. Colin, our guitarist, had enough. He wanted to go back to Europe. So Ron had been playing in the Star Club with Roy. So I sent him a telegram asking if he wanted to come and join us, and he did.
A lot of stuff in between, though. I mean,
a lot of stuff in between. I mean,
we went to Istanbul and went into a hotel and saying what we're going to do now. And so we don't know. Well, the hotel manager kind of came running in the room, stood on top of the tea table in the middle of the room and started unscrewing the light bulbs. And we thought, what's happening here? And he made like signs going, like that, boom, boom, boom. And what it was Greece and Turkey were on the verge of war. But like Mo said, we ended up in Germany, in Hamburg, but like there was quite a few things happening in between, We actually had quite a good couple of singles in Greece that went into the hit parade,
And what name were you under at this point?
The Prophets. Yeah.
The Prophets.
With a PH, not with an F.
So we played a football stadium with like 80,000 people, and that was in 1960 odd, and that was incredible doing that,
Yeah, that was Nico, Vangelis's brother put that on.
Yeah, and that's where we got to know Vangelis too. It was very long story with Vangelis too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun back there. We played a lot of theaters and a lot of big places in Greece. It was like being the Beatles. I mean, it was scary. They surrounded the car and the whole car's
rocking the car. They thought we were the Beatles.
We played the Star Club. We played the Top 10 Club. And then when Roy came, we started doing single gigs.
That's when we started breaking out and doing concerts instead of clubs.
Yeah.
And actually doing that gig exposed us to the concert scene because we'd never done it.
Oh yeah.
And it was really good. I mean, you say that whatever you did in your life makes you what you are today, and that's what made Nectar today because of all that experience, all that just little things that didn't mean a lot at the time, but when you put them together in a cake and you bake the cake, it's there it is, that's the cake.
So what kind of music were you all listening to at the time? Was it sort of Soft Machine and that sort of early sort of...
We were actually, when we were playing the clubs, we were doing not really the top 10, but we were doing a lot of Beatles and a lot of American soul songs and stuff like that.
So it was far from the Nectar that we wouldn't recognize today.
Right.
Absolutely. Nectar was born in Hamburg. That's when we started doing the Nectar thing. Anything before that, we would just do copy songs. We never had any.
Yeah, we did some of our own music.
Missed by a Mile, that kind of.
Yeah. What they call that one that's on the Sounds Like This album? That was from them days. What they call it?
Was it Odyssey?
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was Odyssey, yeah. Odyssey, we were playing already a year before Nectar. And we used to do that with Mick. When Mick came to the Camera Club in Firth with his light show, we used to do all that kind of stuff for him.
Right. So, do you think once you'd been to Greece and you'd toured a few clubs and things, you knew this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, we knew we wanted to do our own thing, and Colin decided to leave, so we asked Roy to join us, and from then on, we just knit really well. It was a good fit, and we never looked back after that.
I was reading an interview with Roy from 2012 where he said that you guys were practicing in a club that was closed during the daytime, and he came in, and then the next day you started making music together, and he just knew that you guys had something together creatively. Do you think you felt the same thing?
Yeah, the first gig we did was at a place just outside Hamburg, and we'd never played together. And we went on stage and jammed for about an hour and a half. We just did, do you know this one? Boom. Do you know that one? Boom. We would just play them, you know. And when we got off stage, we decided before we went on stage that if it went down well, we were going to call ourselves Nectar, and if it didn't go down well, we were going to call ourselves Pollen. Well, it went down really well, and we came off stage, and we decided to do Nectar with a K rather than with a C because it looked better. It just looked better. It was a hard K for rock, you know.
So then how long was it between just touring clubs together and then actually getting signed?
We got signed in I think 1970 to Bacillus Records, and that's when we did Journey, and that was already a year into us playing concerts around the country. We played all over, in every corner of Germany we played at that time. And then
wherever we played, it was sold out, and there were people
yeah.
but outside around the block.
Yeah, I remember playing a gig in Duisburg. We played a gig there, and they wanted us to play for the gate for how much money, you know, they took in at the gate. So we did, and there wasn't that many people, but we next time went down there, he absolutely wanted to pay us because it was packed. You know, as soon as somebody saw us, they wanted to hear more of it. So that was very positive, you know.
So at this point, were you doing songs from Journey that you hadn't recorded yet?
Yeah, we were doing parts of Journey. We put Journey together. We were doing the end, pretty much all of Journey before we had a record deal.
Right.
And then we went in and did Journey at Dirk's studio in Stammeln, just outside Cologne in Germany. And back then they had no DBX, they had no Dolby, they had no sound suppression at all. So we had to play the whole thing at one time. So we played the entire 40 minutes at one shot.
Right.
And then we went in, we only had 8-track tape. So we went in and overdubbed everything, you know.
Right. And obviously, so Journey's quite for a debut album, it's quite complex and quite, you know, even the sort of concept about, you know, the astronaut who's on a voyage to Saturn, and there's a galaxy with aliens, and it's very sort of ambitious for a first album. How did you all sort of come up with, right, this is what we're going to sort of grab everyone with?
Oh, I guess we were all out there, you know.
Were?
Yeah, were. Well, maybe we still are. We've always thought out of the box. Everything we've done has been not in the box at all. And the Journey developed over a period. Started off actually with Astronaut's Nightmare. That was the first thing we did.
Right.
Was Astronaut's Nightmare. And then it just developed, you know, from one jam to another jam. We saw Stockhausen in Germany, and that's where the sounds come from. As I said, we were out there. There's no doubt about that.
And so you released Journey in Germany at the beginning. Was that sort of your plan, just to market to the German audiences that you already had? Or were you planning to go international?
the only market we had was Germany. I mean, we were playing out of Germany. The thing is about Germany, the rest of the country, the rest of the Europe, I don't know about over here, but it was all pop music. And Germany wasn't interested in pop music. They were interested in anything that was new, anything they'd never heard before. They wanted to hear. So it was a real nesting ground for us because we could play anything and they would love it.
Right.
Very special place, Germany, for music.
Right. So do you think that because you had that sort of creative freedom to do whatever you wanted, you would go and do much more outlandish things and much more psychedelic things or strange things than you would have done if you were, touring in Yorkshire, I guess?
Yeah, I don't think Journey would have gone down well in Yorkshire at that time. We were headlining festivals and stuff like that, And Peter Hauke saw us in Frankfurt, and he said, "Are you interested in a record deal?" I said, "Absolutely, we're interested in a record deal." So we made the deal, and we went up to Dieter Dieck's studio, where we slept on the floor, and we slept in the studio. And we go into the house to eat, but we slept in the studio, right, Ron? Yeah. And we did Journey, and that was pretty special. And then when we came to do the next next piece, I think it was Tab, right? Dieter just built a bigger studio, and we all played in these like cubicles, which was very different for us. And we decided that we got so much music by that point that we wanted to get it on an album so that we could move on to do, as it happens, it was Remember the Future. But so we went in the studio. We had, I think we had a competition to get people to come to the studio, and we did 2 nights. We set up in the studio. We set up like it was a concert with our speakers, vocal speakers, everything. And we did 2 nights of music. We played for a couple of hours each night, and they recorded it. And then we mixed it, and they picked one night to do Sounds Like This. That's basically why all that music got put on there. We just wanted to put it out, wanted to get it out the way so we could write more music because we're getting backlogged,
Right.
And it went down really well. I'll tell you a story about the cover as well that's interesting. I don't know if you know the cover that's just come out, the anthology. That cover was actually supposed to be Sounds Like This.
Right.
We're on stage. That's actually a shot from us on stage that he developed into that picture.
Right. Okay.
And it was supposed to be Sounds Like This, that cover. And Peter Hauke and Branko Cvanovic, who was the head of Bellephone, decided that they wanted to continue with Helmut Venske as our artist. And we liked Helmut. I mean, Helmut was a great guy. Still
so he did the cover for Journey and for Tab, right?
Yeah, he did Tab. He did Remember the Future. He did Sounds Like This. He did Recycled. And he's just done the new album, The Other Side. Anyway, they called him up and they said, we want you to do the new album. And he said, okay, I can do that. They said, the only problem is we need it by tomorrow. So he stayed up all night, and what you see on that cover on Sounds Like This, he painted that overnight. Wow. Which is, I mean, it's amazing that he painted it at all.
Yeah. But
to paint it overnight like that, with all that stuff, man, I don't know what it was on, but I wish we could have had some of it at the time.
The idea for Tab, I've read, I think Roy said that it was, you were all joking around of what would happen if the oceans were spiked with acid.
That's basically where that came from. Most of the titles came from Mick, who was not with us. He's
screaming at his computer at home.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Mick came up with pretty much all the titles.
Right.
And we were playing around with it. We were saying it's like you drop acid in the ocean, and Mick came up with a tab in the ocean, and it was great. It fit perfectly to what we were doing.
So then, was it the same sort of process of you would play the whole album start to finish, or did you spend different time on different songs this time?
Well, pretty much. I mean, we would play the whole album every time we played, but the pieces would be in a different order. We used to open up a lot with King of Twilight,
right?
And nowadays we open up with Tab. It gets all the dust off, you know.
For a concert though, Tab is a great opening piece. It's got the foghorn in the beginning and the soft keyboards that come in, and then the solo keyboards and the big kaboom, and then it's off like a horse.
It gets us ready for the rest of the show. It pumps us up too.
Pretty much, especially me.
Yeah. Yeah, you start the show, you all by yourself.
Which is fun. It's fun. Well, with Mick, because I kind of look back and look at the waves that mixes whatever's going on, and we're all together.
Just on that, is Mick still doing the same light shows that he was doing back in the 70s?
He's using some of the stuff from back then, but it's all digital now.
Right.
He's slowly, during the tour that we just did, we did 31 dates, and by the time we got about halfway through, Mick had digitized everything with Jay, so it's all digital now.
Right.
But the concepts are the same.
The idea of the light show is to tell the story of what we're playing. So, especially when we're in Europe, you'd have all these different languages within a couple of hours. You know, you could be in Germany, you could be in France, you could be in Belgium. And the light show gave everybody an idea of what we were singing about, even though they didn't speak the language.
Yeah. And I imagine that, I mean, I've never had the pleasure of seeing Nectar live. So I can't imagine what it must be like to hear that sort of proggy psychedelic music and see sort of what that sounds like on stage. But I remember I was reading Nick Mason's autobiography recently from Pink Floyd, and he was saying when they first started out, they had a light show, and it was in a sort of underground London scene where people would sort of drop acid and then go and sort of trip out to Pink Floyd.
Yeah, well, that light show was Mick.
That was Mick?
Yeah.
Was he the same?
He used to play in Middle Earth. He played at Middle Earth, and that became the Roundhouse in Dagenham.
Right.
He would play with Floyd. I think Floyd were similar to us in a lot of ways. They were out there. They were definitely out there. Sid Barrett was more than out there.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
When you're getting into this scene now in the early 70s, did you meet a lot of other prog bands at the time? Was there a sort of scene?
Yeah, most bands. It's a very small scene. The high end of the music business is not a very big scene. And we got to know most of the bands at the time, you know, Deep Purple and you know, just lots of bands that were out there.
You guys were all like I've seen a bunch of the ads and promotional pieces that from back in the day. You guys did gigs with just about everybody, right? With Zappa obviously, but Yes and Genesis and
pretty much. I mean,
I'm trying to think of who else. Uriah Heep and Wishbone Ash.
Yep. Yeah, we played with a lot of them.
Yeah, it looked like that there were festivals or, you know, that you'd played with just about everybody at one point, it seemed. Pink Floyd, I saw a couple of them, right?
I would say the best group we ever played with, who give us our freedom to do whatever we wanted, was Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa was awesome to play with. He wasn't interested in cutting a light show down or cutting this down so that we wouldn't be as good. He wanted us to be as good as we could be. And he had the right attitude to play with another musician. He was an awesome musician.
Okay, so yeah, Randy, so you were a teenage Nectar fan, and then Mo, you moved into his neighborhood, am I right?
We were about 3 doors down from him.
Six technically.
6 doors down.
Yeah.
We had this house on Fairmount Avenue, and we used to play in the basement. It was me and Taff and Larry Fast rented a house together, and in the basement we set all the gear up, and everybody would come over and we'd play.
Right.
That's where a lot of the music from the other side was made.
That's where we did that.
Yeah. With Rich. Rich used to come over quite a lot, and we'd just jam stuff. And then we'd go out and do a gig and jam stuff there as well.
If I had only known that you guys were doing all that playing down there at that time, myself and a few of my friends, Tom was one of them, who said to say hello to everybody, by the way. And we were big fans of the group. I mean, it's a long story of finding the records at the record store, and you could really only get Remember the Future sounds like this, Remember the Future, Down to Earth, and Recycled. The earlier ones were imports, and we would put in requests to the record store owner. This was back in 75, 76. And they were our favorite group. And one day we're driving down the road, going from school back to home, and there was Mo standing on a corner, raking the leaves or doing whatever he would do in a domestic house. And you got to be fucking kidding me! If we were too scared. I really regret that we didn't approach you guys.
Yeah, we were very approachable.
You've definitely, and now that I know you, obviously, you guys would have gotten a kick out of us. That's for sure.
Yeah, we would.
So how old were you at that point, Randy?
I was 16 years old.
Wow.
16 and 17, yeah.
And you knew just from looking at Mo that he was Mo.
He was a pretty distinguishable character back in those days.
What did you look like then, Mo? Did you have a long mustache or a beard or?
Yeah, I had like a Zappa thing down
Nice.
here, a little piece here.
But you had shoulder hair length hair. The other thing was that the local radio stations, the New York radio station at the time, which used to play Nectar, had mentioned that they had moved to New Jersey.
Right, I see.
So it wasn't completely, from Hamburg, Germany to Chatham, New Jersey, is quite a coincidence. There was, I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of knowledge from the media, a little bit that they had relocated to the States. So, yeah, it was wild.
And then Rich and Kendall, you guys had worked together before, right?
Yes, we were introduced as two people that should meet in the progressive world. So we met over this promoter's house and we got along. And I had a band in those days called Flying Dreams. And Kendall was part of Flying Dreams. We played a place called the Cutting Room in New York City, which is a really cool place. And Nectar came to see us and met Kendall and we joined.
Yeah.
But before that, Ronnie wanted to put a band together, right, Ronnie? You wanted to put the band back together. So you called Mo, Mo called me, and then called Randy, and I called Kendall, and we got together and we were reformed.
Yeah, when we I called Rich, and me and Rich and Ron got together at John's studio, and I could tell pretty much instantly that it was going to work with the three of us. It was like moving back to 1978.
It was great.
And we knew what we wanted to do. We knew that Mick was going to come back. We knew Randy was going to come in, so Randy came down and played, and then there was the four of us playing, and it felt really good. And we didn't have a keyboard player, and I said to Rich, "Hey, Rich, what's your keyboard player like?" And he said, "He's really good." So I said, "Why don't you give him a call and see if he'll come and, play with us?" You were going to tell that story.
I sure am. I was waiting for this moment. So they had been brewing this. I've been playing with Rich for like 5 years, and they had been brewing this, and I didn't know it. Rich had mentioned it every now and then. He said, and Ron came to the Prog House, actually. Rich and I were doing a duo.
That's right.
Right? And that's the
Yes.
first time I met Ron. I got off stage and I go, oh, and there's Ron. And he said, hey, thinking of doing this, would you want to do it? And my words were, are you effing kidding me? So I was like, yes, that's history. I'd love to, of course. And he just said, okay, and disappeared. I didn't see him for another,
Wow.
it was months.
I
These
think
guys.
were you there, Randy, too? Did you come to that show?
Yeah,
Oh, you were
I
there
did
too?
come to that
Okay.
show, yeah.
It was, and they were,
I didn't do that trip.
yeah, I didn't see you, Mo. And so anyway, we fast forward months and months. I think it was January. Was it January?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out at John's, that suburbs, quiet. I think it was a Sunday morning or Saturday morning, but it was quiet. And I packed all my gear into my SUV, all 4 keyboards, speakers. I mean, packed. It's like, I'm going to everything. So I pull up, I find the address, pull everything out in the street, put my gloves on. I'm ready to, all right, I'm going to put this on a cart and pull it in. And Marianne, who was,
Marianne, come here for one second.
yeah,
She's right here.
she was taking care of a lot of the logistics and coordination at the time, pops out of the door and says, oh, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. They won't be needing you anymore.
Oh no.
And closes the door. And this is in suburbia, birds chirping, nothing else, and me standing in the middle of the street with gloves on, tons of gear. They're like, what the beep? And then they all came out and helped me get everything
And we
done.
loved him. He fit in so great. We just it completed.
And the same thing, actually, as soon as he started playing, we knew that he was the right guy for us.
Oh, he's great.
It felt good at every stage of writing the music, of playing the music, of doing whatever we did. It just felt great.
So how does it compare, sort of, growing up listening to a band and then becoming part of that band?
I have to say something to that because I've played in a lot of different situations. This is sort of my favorite kind of music to play. It's got a little bit of everything, experimentation, and it's just open to doing what you want to do. But Ron and Mo are the real deal. And I keep saying this, they are the real deal as far as progressive rock goes.
You could feel them. You could
feel
their
it.
experience.
I've played, when you play in a cover band or a tribute band, or you play with people who are playing music by someone else, that's one thing. But when you play with the real thing, the minute Ron and Mo started playing, there's a history of how they grew up, how they learned to play, what they listened to. They have a different filter than somebody who just learned what they played. So that was fantastic. And I had played with Rich already. And Randy had played this stuff. It was just a really great,
really
great
fit.
feeling.
And Randy brings a dimension with bass pedals.
Yep.
With his bass playing at the double bass and a 12-string guitar, that it adds a whole different edge. Even with the original Nectar music written back in the day, he brings a different dimension to it, which is really good.
I agree. I used to have bass pedals. I used to play bass pedals. But once I heard Randy doing what he did, I said, I don't need to buy any bass pedals. We'll use
One set for this band is enough. I think.
Same thing when we're playing music with 2 bass players. You would think you would have to work out what you're playing. Okay, I'm going to play this part, you're going to play that part. But it's not like that at all. We just play and we blend in with each other. We know he's going low, I'm going high. I'm going low, he's going high. He knows when to play, when to bring out the 12-string, and he'll play that with the pedals. We have no shortage of bass.
that is for sure.
Definitely very strong bass, and of course Ron needs 2 bass players.
Oh, he does. He's the best.
And Kendall, that special K that Kendall has.
Oh,
Kellogg's special K. He has that.
He does.
Reese, are you a musician, Reese?
I am, yeah. I've played the piano since I was a kid.
Okay.
But in this lockdown, I've just taken up the guitar. Me and my friend are learning how to play guitar.
Okay,
And I've just finished learning how to play the 12-bar blues this week.
Good.
there you go.
So I'm making so watch out, Nectar. I'll be coming for you next year.
Well, the reason that I asked is that all of us have played in different bands through the years, and you get together with a group of people and you play, and sometimes if you're playing cover songs, you follow the script that just goes along, and if you do some improvisation. The point I'm getting to is that sometimes you play with people and you play and you do, and it's a job and it's a gig, and boom, and off you go. And then when you play with other people, sometimes it's like you don't have to think about it. You're not in your body, and it just there's a vibe, there's a groove, and it's they say it's magic. That's cliche, but
It's true, but it is.
It's
isn't
magic.
it?
And this group has got that. You can't quantify it. You try, but I played in a million bands where it's like, all right, thanks for the gig, see you later. If you never see them again, that's okay. But with this group, this ensemble here, everybody's got a part, everybody's got a thing, and it's the same goal. But there's definitely an energy to it that's to me not really definable. So. And every time we're done, we look at each other and go, "What the frick was that?" So
Well, the songs are 20 minutes long, so when we go in, it's goodbye, and then when we come out, it's you're,
Well, I think a lot of it is the freedom to play. We don't tie anybody down to playing anything particular. We've got a framework, but within that framework, you're allowed to jam or do whatever you want to do. And so every night it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
We play a song, might be 20 minutes one night, might be 25 minutes the next night.
Yeah.
And it just, the time goes by. We were doing 2 hour and 20-minute sets.
Yes. No break.
2 hours and 20 minutes
Goes like
straight
that.
through.
Yeah.
No time for a pee, nothing.
It's quite interesting to hear that, you guys sort of started out with that sort of, you guys and Roy all came together with this sort of instantaneous, you knew that you had this creative energy, and now a completely different, group of people, and you've got the same sort of energy. That's really incredible to hear that.
Incredible.
It's
a
still
beautiful,
there.
Beautiful thing to have found this.
I think so. I think you expect it to be once in a lifetime you get that band together, but we hit on that magic twice. We are definitely right there.
And you see with Mick too, he is really part of it. I mean, I was doing a guitar solo in the studio, and I was going down in one part, and he said, "Stop me." He said, "You can't go down. The lights are going up in that part."
Yeah.
And I'm there like, what's he?
on stage, it's actually very anticlimactic because you're concentrating on the music and everything else is behind you. So
You can't see it. You can't
it's
see
only
it.
once in a while you get to look back and go, oh, there's a big
you can.
ship going up and down the thing.
The worst thing about being in Nectar is you can't go and see a Nectar gig.
You can't see the show, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea that stuff's going on behind us.
And we were on the tour bus, and we finally hooked up the laptop to the little DVD player that they had in the on the bus, and when we finally got it all hooked up and saw the show with the music, saw what we looked like, all of us were like, holy shit, look at that, my God. And he's not just throwing up a bunch of psychedelic lights. He's got little foot pedals, so the films that go along, if we extend a piece, he brings it back so it all lines up.
Oh no, he's serious. He's
Dead fucking serious about the light show. It's amazing.
I face center stage, so I can see a lot of the.
You get to see it. Yeah.
I get to see what's going on. Sometimes it's just too big or blurry because it's so close. But there's times I'll look back and go, "Whoa, what was in Mick's brain?" But it's amazing.
I'll definitely have to see it once we're out of this lockdown.
Yeah.
Because I noticed you guys. Did you guys pause your tour? Were you guys in the middle of a tour?
We just finished.
You just finished.
Just finished a leg, came back and had to sit still. Yeah.
Yeah, we did 31 dates, and we're supposed to come back, take a month off, and then we're going to do another 8 or 10 gigs on the East Coast. And then in June, which is now, we're supposed to be on the West Coast doing another 30 odd gigs. And that all got cancelled because of this COVID thing.
Derek, I saw a comment on the website where someone was asking about a European tour possibility. And you said something like, we're currently fighting with a German band who stole our name. And they're called New Nectar. And they're some sort of offspring of Nectar that I think Roy and Ron have both worked with at one point.
Roy and Ron worked with Klaus Henach, who's the keyboard player, but he was just a sideman,
right?
And him and his manager stole the name. They told Ron that he was going to basically listen to what Klaus Henach had to say, and that's the direction they were going to take. And Ron said, "No way, I'm an original member. I don't want to do that." So he left, and we put this band together. And meanwhile, they went to the trademark office in Germany and registered the name. And we've been fighting this now for about going on for a year. And I think it may take another year before we can get our name back. But we can use our name, Nectar, in Europe. We just can't use the name Nectar in Germany.
It's kind of incredible that you guys started out as Nectar in Germany, and now that's the only place that you can't be Nectar.
It's frightening.
Yeah, it really sucks.
Yeah.
But, you've got to play the game, and we want to go back to Germany. And if that's how we've got to do it, we've just got to go back big with this new concept.
So this is sort of an album composed of old ideas from back in the day of Nectar, but with obviously the new guys, Rich, Kendall, Randy, putting their input into it as well. So it's sort of got old and new, and obviously we've got, I'm guessing this, I don't know how you record an album, but I'm guessing that it's changed quite significantly from back when you did Journey.
Not for this one. This one we recorded in a real studio. I used all analog gear. We all used analog gear. It was recorded digitally, but all analog. So it was just a big studio. It wasn't file sharing. It was just set up real drums. Ron had a big setup, big drum room, beautiful new studio, or old studio, and we rocked it out the old way. We did some songs in one take, and we kept them. We kept them, solos and everything. The only thing we overdubbed, and Mo will tell you, were some vocals, maybe some keys and stuff like that. Ronnie was one take on a lot of songs.
One take, Ronnie. Yeah, he had this DW kit that was just awesome sound, and he took the whole studio, big, like almost like a big church feeling, and all our gear was in little rooms, and we were playing live. The whole album was played live.
It was live.
So if you've heard the album, right?
Yeah, of course.
If you listen to Drifting was one take, and the only thing we added was the vocal and the piano under the vocal. Everything else was live.
Right.
Every song that we did, as the basic tracks are all live, and I think that's what gives it its feel. Plus the fact that we're doing music that was done in 1978, it's got that old feel. It's like putting a pair of slippers on, the one forever. It just feels great.
Plus, these guys, Mo and Ron, kept impressing that all the other records, they went away and did. They went to that's what they did for however long it took to record that record. So now with all of us having separate lives and getting together when we could, especially weekends, every weekend religiously. When we went to the studio, rented a house down near the studio, down on the shore, and everybody was together. I was kind of running around because I had some other technical stuff to do, but Basically everybody was in that house for the amount of how long was that? 2 weeks?
2 weeks the first time.
2 weeks.
I think about 12 days the second time.
It definitely has the sound of a 70s Nectar album.
Yeah, everybody says that. I find that interesting, actually.
But I mean, it must be kind of surreal to have sort of listened to those albums early on for Rich and Kendall and for Randy as well, and now you're sort of seamlessly integrated into one of them.
Yes. No. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And even playing, and for my part, to front it, to sing, and to play, basically like Roy, it wasn't easy. You had I always said, and it was a running thing in the band, that Roy sit with us, saying that's right, that's wrong, and we really believe that his spirit is with us always to look over us and to give us his blessing and to go that way. And it worked out. It's not a fake thing. It's just a real experience, and it feels great. I know Kendall has to feel great with it too. And
Yeah, this is it. This is it. I think I've told Mo that this is what I've always wanted to do, and that's that. It's some of my favorite music to participate in, write, play with guys from the actual, help create progressive rock. It's a small group, really, when you look at it, especially English. I still call it English. I know you're in Germany, but it's, you guys were fathers of this. So
in my mind, I think, as much as I enjoyed doing Magic as a child, I think that this album, The Other Side, is a good follow-up to Recycled. It's the next step, if you like.
Right. Because I think for me anyway, the latter half of Recycled is quite sort of jazzy and funky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different step from Tab or from Journey. So I guess I just want to ask all of you, really, what is your favorite little slice of Nectar?
For me, each album represents where we were at that time, and I see them all as being Nectar. Nectar has a very varied palette. We can go on stage. We'll pick sets. We have about 3 hours to choose from right now, and we're going to be working on other stuff so for when we go out. But you'd be amazed at all the stuff. I mean, what do you guys think? What's your favorite things?
I loved opening with Recycled. That's a big boom. I mean, there's so much material, and it's a wide variety. Like you said, some funky, groovy stuff, and then some spacey stuff, and some really almost classical stuff. So there's a lot there, but I love playing Recycled. I also, on the other side, I love playing Drifting, because I love watching the whole band concentrating on the time. The floating, when we play it live, and the floating quality of it, Right. So those are my two opposing favorites to play.
I like Recycled, the second side. I mean, we do the first side now, but I really like the second side. I thought it brought out a side of Nectar, funkier, as you said.
I like Recycled, but I really like Remember the Future. Day in the Life of a Preacher is great. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a great song. Odyssey, for a bass player, is Jazz City. It's really hard to narrow it down. I like The Other Side and Skywriter now, are pretty cool tunes. It's hard to say which is my favorite. If you put a gun to my head, Day in the Life of a Preacher is my favorite Nectar song.
Well, as you just said, Randy, there's so much to play that you like.
Right.
You can't put it into one song. You've got to spread it around.
Yeah.
I love Marvelous Moses from.
That too. Yeah.
Great song, but we haven't got around to doing it yet. But we will.
Yeah, we will. We will. Mm-hmm. As for me, of course, I like a new record, because it took 40 years and put it together. That we waited. We wrote it back in those days, and then we with the new band we put it together here. That's why I love that. But I love playing all the epics. I love Remember the Future, Recycle, Tab, and I have great fun playing and singing Good Day.
I just wanted to ask about Good Day, actually. Is it true that Good Day was written way before a lot of the other stuff, before you recorded it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good Day was the first song we did. First song we ever did.
Right.
That's when we were living in a place called Zollenspieker.
Yeah, Zollenspieker, yeah.
Love it.
That's where we did the Good Day film. It was a camp for boys and girls where they went out there, and on a weekend we was gone playing, and so it didn't matter. But I think they only came out there on weekends, and we were there during the week, living on potatoes.
But we do a little show for them every other weekend if we weren't playing.
Derek, I heard you say once in an interview, it's very hard to put Nectar in a box. We cover the spectrum. We get labeled prog. We've got a lot of different time signatures. But I guess the question is, how would you describe Nectar?
Oh, Nectar is very freeform. It's whatever's happening in our heads at the time. It's not. We didn't see that every album was different. We just saw that that's what we were doing at the time. That's why I said that I like every album, because in that time, that's where our heads were at. So I don't think that we have a specific groove. It's the Nectar groove. It's how we feel. I mean, you listen to all the different things we play in the other side. It goes right from one end with I'm on Fire, which is very rocky, to Drifting, which is in 5444 or 98, which makes it drift because it's very hard to tap your foot to it. Let me put it that way. So I wouldn't like to try and put it in a box. I would rather call it Nectar music. If we put ourselves in a box, then people expect us to do that kind of stuff. And the way we are now, it's always going to have a melody. It's not going to be monotonous, not going to be monotone, not going to be everything in 4/4. It's going to be different in that way. But we're going to do it how we feel it works. I like to play something that's going to jerk somebody out of the seat and they're going to go, what? You know, and the way you do that is write the music to be somewhat unexpected.
And prog just leaves you wider parameters when you put it in that box and say, oh, well, it's prog. You know, there's freedom. You're not limited by certain things as if you were to call it smart pop or something. So it is just plain good music, but prog to me is just music that takes advantage of the technological advantages that are around at the time, makes use of them a little on the cutting edge, but without boundaries, because there's a lot of prog now that's actually mimicking itself. A lot of people are bringing back some of the cliche stuff, but that's not what Nectar is doing. It's not what a lot of the good bands are doing. They're playing their older material, but their new stuff, you know, they've grown. Technology is different. They're getting new sounds and moving forward. So, and that was the whole thing, being in front of things. Sometimes Nectar was very groovy and rock, funky, you know, great, you know, almost like, well, it's a rock band. And then they'd break off into 5/4 or something, you know, or stops or superimposing things. And it's just something, and that's the magic of it, you know.
The Beatles have made it happen. The Beatles were the ones that made it popular to be writing your own music. Before then, there was nobody writing their own music. And bringing back to today, now Nick Mason's out with his Saucer Full of Secrets band, who are playing some of the very early Floyd, which I find really interesting.
Really inspiring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very inspiring. I mean, the guy, when we played the Town Hall in New York, we played in 2003, I think it was, and Nick Mason came to see the show. They're Floyd fans of ours, and we're fans of theirs. I mean, it's the music is an extension of your life. You know, you want to have something with melody, and you want to have something that's a little bit off tilter in a little bit different time signature, and it's going to float and it's going to join together in an unusual way, and it just feels good to play. And that's really where we're coming from. It's all ready to go, man.
Fantastic. Yeah, if you guys want to write me a beautiful new album just off the cuff, go for it.
There we go. Challenge accepted.
But yeah, it's been really wonderful talking to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
No problem, man.
Okay, Reese. Thank you.
Okay.
Keep yourself safe.
All right, everybody. I guess.
Better.
Candle.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Mo.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Communication Breakdown. I just want to thank my guests today, Nectar, and my wonderful camera assistant, Benjamin Friedley. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe. You can follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and join us for next week's episode where we'll be talking to Martin Turner, ex-Wishbone Ash. Hopefully we'll see you then. Goodbye.